The definition of insanity is doing the exact same thing over and over again and expecting a change. If you want 2026 to be the year that you finally change and break free, this is going to be the training for you. Today, guys, I'm going to be sharing with you 4 secrets on how to level up so fast that it feels like you're cheating. All right, how to level up so fast it feels like you're cheating, straight into level 1. First level here is the vision. And this is important because we need some sort of direction. We need focus. One thing that is always guaranteed in life, one thing that is guaranteed as a whole is change. Change is always happening. Now, where that change occurs is going to come down to where your vision is, where you're focused on, where your energy is flowing. So the first things first is we need to know what it is that we want. And if you don't know what you want, you at least know what you don't want, so you can start from there. So we need direction, we need something to focus on, we need to know not necessarily the entire steps forwards, but you need to know at least the first step that you can act upon. For example, if you want to lose weight, but you're not sure what a caloric deficit is and you're not sure how much protein you need, it doesn't matter. One thing you do know is that you can start walking more. That's one step in the direction of where you want to go. Same with state as well, which I'm going to explain here very soon, which is extremely important if you want to level up your life. So here's what I'd love you to do. Make 2 sides. You can either have a line down the middle, you can make a circle like I did here, but you want 2 sections. And the first section here is where you're at now. So you just want to write it out. Okay, I'm not consistent with my goals. Overall, I feel pretty sad. I'm over 20 pounds extra body weight. I'm single and I want a relationship, and I always am worried and I always feel like I'm scared in life. Okay, so let's say that's kind of where you're at now. Let's say that's we'll call it Frank. My pug's name is Frank, so we'll call it Frank. Okay. Now Frankie's vision is Frankie wants to make $100,000 a year. Frankie wants to be healthy, or he wants healthy love. He wants unconditional love in his life. He wants to be fit. He wants to lose that 20 pounds. Frankie wants to be pain free. And Frankie doesn't want to have any more anxiety. Okay. That is the vision. So we're creating it. Now, the next thing we need that's going to be extremely important is you need to figure out what your current state is and what the state of being that would be like. Now, an easy way to do this is if you just take where you're at right now, you close your eyes, you tap into your heart, you shut out the logical mind, and you just focus on, like, what is my overall state of being? Now, if you're not 1,000% sure, there's always the map of consciousness that you can use. And this here can also give you a better idea. For example, shame, guilt, apathy, grief, fear, desire, anger, pride. One of those areas, just figuring out where exactly you are on the chart. And that is your overall state. So think of state as like you take all your overall emotions, your thoughts, overall your sense of self, how you feel about yourself. That is your current state. Some people call it your current frequency. I'll call it your state. Then, once you're clear on this state, so let's say right now, that state here is I overall am sad or worried. So I'm overall sad and worried. Okay. Now, let's say the next state. So imagine for a second, visualize yourself, because here's the beauty about our mind. This is how powerful we are, is that your mind doesn't know if you're imagining things, if you're experiencing it your mind doesn't know if you're imagining it or if it's actually happening in real time. It only experiences everything in the now. So, that being said, if you imagine yourself, you're making $100,000. Frankie is healthy. He has amazing love in his life. He's got a strong relationship. He's super fit. He lost 20 pounds. He's pain free. He doesn't have any anxiety. He's clear thinking. What Frankie would want to do is he'd want to go into a little bit of a meditation. You close your eyes, you get into a good rhythm of breathing, so you feel safe, you're calm, you're relaxed, and you start imagining this. And over time, as you start thinking these thoughts, as you start visualizing it, you're going to grab onto the feeling. That's what you want to hold on to. You want to figure out what is that state as a whole. So you take all these, and how do you think, if you had all of that, how do you think Frankie would feel? How do you think you would feel if you had all of that? That is the state that you want to get to. So let's say this person's state is free and loving. So the state that Frankie wants to be in is free and loving. Now, you want to really hold on to this. So you really want to remember what your state is, because here's why. Level 2. Level 2 is a shifting process. So what I mean by shifting is basically how you feel isn't random. A lot of people think oftentimes like, well, I feel sad. I don't know why I feel sad. Or I'm just always upset and I don't understand why. It's not random. Okay. The reason why we feel the way we feel is typically number one is the consistent thoughts that we hold. A thought held for 7 seconds usually produces an emotion, right? If you don't believe me, just think of it like if you had a partner that you woke up to every single day and they're always hating on you. You're ugly. You're overweight. I hate you. You're not good enough. You can't do these things. You suck at your job. If you always had that in your ear, you're going to feel pretty terrible. It's going to over time affect you quite a bit unless you're like some Zen master. So over time, that is going to affect you. Your emotions are not random. Okay, typically your emotions come from your core belief system. So this is where the shifting happens. Okay, because remember, this is the state that we're in that's producing that's related to all of these things that we do not want in our lives. So obviously we don't want to stay in that state, right? Do you think you'd still feel that way if you had the $100,000, if you are healthy, if you had fit, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? Remind, this goal, this image, these things that we think we want, they're only permission slips to feel the way we want to feel. What I mean by that is that you think you want the $100,000 per year goal because of what you think it's going to make you feel. Maybe it's more free, maybe it's more calm, maybe it's less stressed about money. So it's actually the feelings that you want that you think you're going to get from the materialistic things. So that's why we want to hold on to the state, and it's going to get really good here in level 2. Okay, so we're clear now on the state. So level 2, like I mentioned, the beliefs produce it. But how does this actually work? All right, so here's how it works. So your core beliefs and fears that you have about yourself in the world, they typically produce the thoughts and also the emotions that you have. Now, thought held for 7 seconds, like I said, creates an emotion as well. Now, over time, how is identity formed? Neuroscience shows us neurons that fire together, wire together. Thoughts and emotions held over time equals identity. Okay? And how do we take consistent actions over time? Anybody can go to the gym for 2 weeks straight. How does somebody stay in the gym for 2 years? It needs to become part of their identity. Your behaviors are formed from your identity. I always use the example in all of my videos, like if you're very religious and you will go to church, you will read the Bible, you will read all the stories, you'll do the practices, you'll do the prayers. It is part of your identity, who you are. So then actions come about. And actions is what produces results in this life. So we need to take different actions if we want these goals to come true, right? It's not like they're just going to fall into our pocket. Action is needed. This is where a lot of people get the law of attraction wrong. If I just think about what I want, I'll get it. No, we're almost there, but not exactly. Action is always needed. So in order to act consistently, mind you, consistently, right? Because what a lot of people do is think of a dieter, for example. They'll go change their action, but they won't change their identity, their beliefs, their thoughts, and emotions. So they keep failing 90% plus of the time because they can't outrun their sense of self. They cannot outrun that ego, that identity. Its job is to keep you the same. It wants predictability. It wants safety and security. So if we don't change it, it's going to constantly drag us back to square one over and over again. So in order to take consistent actions long enough to actually produce new results in your life, you need to change your identity, which means you need to change your beliefs. And then results come from actions. Okay, now let's take it back a little step here. Just going to delete this. So now you're clear on why that's also important. So how do we dissect this, right? How do we dissect this feeling that we're experiencing? So if you're unclear, like, oh, well, I don't know why I'm so sad. Like, I think maybe it's a lot of things. I don't know why I'm just so sad about my life. Like, look at my life right now. My life sucks. I don't have the money I want. I'm single and I've been lonely for years. I hate the way I feel in my body. Like, how do you expect me to be happy? Like, I just want to be happy, but I can't. If you're feeling that way, it's okay. It's okay. I totally understand where you're getting from. Now, this is where I'm going to ask you to start observing yourself and not reacting to yourself. So observe the things I'm going to say here. So if you feel sad or worried, we know that it's not spontaneous or random. right? We know it's coming from a core belief system that's producing all of this. So how do we find those hidden beliefs? I'm going to share with you 3 extremely powerful strategies that the elites use, that literally multimillionaires and billionaires pay tons of money for this stuff to help them unlock new levels of success or fulfillment. Here's how you do it. The first one is the 3 statements. Mind you, I want to give credit, like all this stuff is learned and passed down. Now, first of all, number 1 is the 3 statements. So the 3 statements is, first of all, I am sad. Clearly stated, I am sad, or I feel sad. Okay? Number 2, the next phrase is, I feel sad because I choose to. This is very important that you claim it, because you cannot change something that you do not own. But so for example, this is where a lot of people struggle, and this is where the ego, the sense of self, really likes to start screaming and playing its role. What do you mean I choose to be sad? Are you crazy? I don't choose to be sad. I don't want to be sad. I'm sad because of this person did this to me in the past. I'm sad because this happened at my job. I'm sad because the world and the president is this person. If you choose to continue to believe that the outer world has an influence on your internal world, that it has full control, you will suffer your entire life. If you want to genuinely become untouchable, unbreakable from the outer world, if you genuinely want to create fulfillment and happiness within, you need to understand that it comes from you and you only. The outer world over time will reflect your inner state. You don't wait for the outer world to change in order for you to change. I always use the analogy, the example as well that I was taught of when you want the mirror to smile, you smile first and the mirror will reflect it. And we'll dive deeper into that here soon. So you have to own it. You have to take ownership of it, because now you can actually change it. But if it's blamed on somebody else or something else, you can't change it then. You're going to be waiting for that thing to change in order for you to change. And that's where suffering comes in, because we're not letting go. We're not accepting what is. So I'm sad because I choose to. Now that we own it, okay, I choose to be sad because I believe it serves me. Here's the tricky part, okay? So the reason why we might feel sad is because it's coming from a core belief. How the brain works is that your brain is always trying to reconfirm the core beliefs it has, because those core beliefs allow you to survive and function in the world up until now. It's a part of the ego, the sense of self. And how the brain works is that it's a prediction machine. So in order to predict the future, it needs a base. It needs a sense of self. It needs that ego. So we have these beliefs about ourselves because it allows us to stay the same, right? Those beliefs will allow us to think the same, to feel the same, to then act the same, to get the same results. So it's not spontaneous or random. There's got to be a reasoning behind it. So you ask yourself, I'm sad. I feel sad. I feel sad because I choose to. Okay, now you own it. I choose to be sad because I believe it serves me. As soon as you say that, those 3 phrases, now your mind's going to start thinking, why would I do that? How would it help me to be sad? Oh, well, I guess like if I'm sad, it would help me because now I don't need to change anything. Because if I'm sad, I can't take action. I can't stay consistent. Okay, so it's helping you stay the same, right? That's just an example. But the purpose of this is that it's going to get your mind to start questioning. Number 2, there's a reason behind that. Number 2, the second thing that you can do to dissect these core beliefs and fears, ask yourself this question. What would I have to believe to be true about myself, or it could be the world, in order to feel this way? I feel sad right now. What would I have to believe to be true about myself in order to feel this way? Well, I'd have to believe that things just don't work out for me. Boom. You caught the limiting belief there. Or I'd have to believe that I'm just not good enough for this world. Boom. You caught the limiting belief that's causing you to feel that way. Remember this for a second, because we're going to come back to that. Third question, if nothing's still coming up, is you could ask, what would I have to be scared of in order to feel this way? What would I have to be fearful of in order to continue to feel this way? And that's another one. Well, I have to be scared that if I do let go of this, then I'm going to enter into this unknown world that I don't think I can handle. Something along the lines there. Just an example again. But those are three questions that you can ask yourself, that you can go within. And what those three things do is it allows you to step outside of your own story. So this allows you to become the author and not being the book, which a lot of spiritual masters, a lot of coaches say that basically this allows you to observe your situation without getting into reaction. Okay, so it allows you to step outside the story, your sense of self, your ego, to really be the observer. So, for example, some people often are like, well, I don't know how to be myself, right? The key is that you're not trying to be yourself. That means you're trying to be something. You're trying to grasp onto something. You got to realize that you are the being behind it all. You're the one observing it all. Observing yourself, telling yourself the story of, I don't know how to be myself. That is who you genuinely are, the one behind it all, observing it all playing out. That is your full self. So, these questions allow you to step outside of the story of yourself. And that's where change can start to happen. Because if not, the ego is going to be so caught up in its same beliefs and thoughts, it's going to buy into them and believe them to be true, and it's going to keep stuck. It's going to have a limited mind. It's like a prison. You're trapped in a prison. Okay, going back to this. So let's say we ask ourselves this question, right? And it's like, I feel sad and worried. I feel this way because I believe that things don't work out for me. So things never work out for me. Now imagine this limiting belief. Imagine how much this affects somebody's life. If they believe that things never work out for them, how do you think they're then going to think? Well, they're going to think in pessimistic ways, in negative views. They're going to plan and think for the worst. How do you think that's going to make them feel over time if they think that the world is such a bad place and that nothing ever works out for them? They have terrible luck. It makes sense that they're going to be sad and worried all the time, right? Oh, gosh, what's around the corner? What's going to happen next? Why can't I change? Everything always goes wrong. And then those beliefs also shape our perspective. So when something could actually be working out in the greater picture, our perspective is limited to it, and we can only see the bad, only the negative. See, look, I'm trying to lose weight. I'm going to the gym, but I'm not losing any weight. But it's like, yeah, because you've only been going for 2 months. But did you know that you're boosting metabolism because you're building strength? You're getting more muscle. So you're actually getting your body to function way better. And as soon as you get this habit down, guess what's next is you're going to get your calories on track. But you're learning, you're in the stepping stones right now. But their perspective would be limited to that with that core belief system because they believe that things never work out for them. So they're only looking at the fact that, hey, no, I don't care about that. The scale's not moving. The scale is not moving. I'm not doing it right. When in reality, it's like, you've been consistent for 2 months. You're working out your strength in your body. All those things are getting you to where you want to go. See how powerful that is? Like how it affects us so much and can keep most of us stuck? So the thoughts, the feelings, and then over time, that influences the actions. So the actions, things never work out for me. We're going to give up easily. We're going to procrastinate on change. We're going to doubt ourselves all the time, right? We're not going to go all in. We're going to maybe take 40% action, not 100% action. Just dip our toes, right? We're going to try the little plans here and there, but never fully invest into it. And then the results, things are not going to work out. So it's like a self-fulfilling cycle. So here's the power of changing those beliefs, okay? Because imagine, because first of all, is it universally true that things never work out for that person? No. Maybe their personal truth, right? Maybe a half truth, but it's not universally true and it doesn't have to be that way forever. So that means the belief is not solidified. One thing we must understand is that beliefs are not solid. Beliefs can change. And that's one of our God-given powers, is that we can change our personal belief system, which then changes every single thing else in our lives. This is how you level up massively. So imagine things work out for me. Imagine if we just shifted it to things always work out for me. How are we going to think and feel then? We're going to feel excited. We're going to start thinking in new creative ways. We're going to be spontaneous. We're going to follow our passions. We're going to do the things we love. The more and more you do things that you love, you're surrounded by more love, you're going to feel even happier. You're going to feel even better. Your actions are going to be so much more consistent. It's easy to stay consistent when you're doing things that you love and you know that what you want is going to work out. That's easy then. It doesn't take discipline, right? You just get to show up and do what you want, do what you love. And then the results, guess what? The results are going to change if you give it time, which you will because you believe things work out for you. See how that one shift in level 2, we're not even at level 4 yet, just at level 2, but see how that shift can truly change everything moving forwards. And this is all based in science and how, just as simple. It's just how the mind works. It's how we function as people, as beings. So, the power shifting beliefs. The belief creates identity, thoughts and emotions held over time, create the sense of self, the identity, which influences overall actions, which gets you the things that you want in life, right? Action is needed. You cannot just sit and think about it. You cannot just hold the feeling. Action is, of course, needed. But you can actually take action once that identity is changed. Level 3. Level 3. The new sense of self. Okay. So, you're changing yourself. You're changing your beliefs. You're letting go of fears. All these things that you've held on to for most of your life. Now it's all changing so fast. The ego is going to be screaming here. The ego is going to try to do every single thing it can to keep you stuck. So the ego, the sense of self, is created from your past experiences, emotional traumas, events, labels put on you, society, culture. It creates this sense of self. Ego can only survive in the future or the past. It is not in the now. Now, the ego's job is to stay the same. It's to protect you. It's not evil. The ego's job is to protect you. And how it protects you is it tries to predict the future by looking into the past. Okay, this is how I thought, this is how I think, this is how I feel, this is how I act. So I'm going to keep doing that so I can stay alive. Because the one thing the ego hates is an identity death. But remember, like I said before, is that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a change. So if you want a new future, you need to change this ego. You need to change your sense of self, or at least step outside of it. Do not let it run the show any longer. Because here's how the ego will try to stop you in the now as you're trying to change your life. Is that, let's say you're trying to get more money in life, and then you lose your job. The ego is going to say, see, look, things never work out for you. You're not on the right track. Why don't you just give up? Because remember, change is happening. But that meaning is only coming from, again, that ego who wants things to stay the same. But if you believe that everything's going to work out for you and you trust that, then when you lose that job, you could look at it like, okay, this just gives me more time to research, to develop my skills, to get ready for what I actually want. This gives me more time to go apply and be interviewed for other jobs. So the ego will try to define things and give meaning to situations that connects to its old self, that connects to the past. This is the hardest thing that people struggle with, is that they identify so much with their outer world. They allow the outer world to tell them who they are over and over again. But the problem is that it's a constant loop. It's a prediction cycle. It's exactly what they're searching for, even though they don't want it. So it influences that overall focus. And then again, it feeds back into the ego, and it's like, see, I told you so. I told you so. I can't change. Nothing ever works out for me. So here's how you create a new sense of self. Is you want to be the awareness behind the thoughts, and you don't want to react. Okay? Step outside of yourself. Be aware, observe, but do not react. And you want to hold the new state. You have to be delusional for a bit. You have to be delusional for a bit. You want to be rich, but right now you have 50 cents. Okay, that's the fact, right? But that doesn't mean it's forever. So let's focus on the new state. Let's focus on the new state. What does it feel like to be rich? Let's say $10 million is coming into your bank account in the next 7 days. How would you think, feel? How would you walk around? How would you be? That's the new state, right? Because if you keep relating to your current experience, you will hold on to it and keep it alive. So you need to be delusional. You have to focus and shift your energy into what you actually want to be, how you actually want to feel, how you want to act, how you want to think, despite the fact that there's no results yet. Remember, we live in a three-dimensional world. You have to give it time. Okay, time is basically a part of the process. It allows you to go through the experiences, the changes, in order to show up and get exactly what you want. So hold the new state. Be delusional despite what the outer world is telling you. Focus on what you do want rather than what you don't want. If it doesn't help you grow, let it go. Negative thoughts, negative feelings, negative focuses, all those things. Remember, this is the hardest level. I think this is the hardest level that people go through because they allow the outer world to tell them so much often who they are. And they cannot let go of those specific, consistent experiences that keep popping up to where they continue to give the same meaning, define it in the same situation, react to it the same way, to feed the sameness that's going on, the ego, the part of them that they don't even want to be. So we have to step outside of ourselves. We have to remember how actually powerful we genuinely are. And when the world tries to label you, when they try to put you as a victim, when they try to say that you're stuck, you can't change, you have this diagnosis, does that help serve me? I remember one time, for example, when I was younger, completely destroyed my back playing hockey. The doctor basically told me to give up and never play sports again. I got the shots. I got 4 shots put in my back. I got all the scans, all the kind of help, everything. And if I would have believed in them, right, my whole entire life would have been different. But you know what I said? Actually, my mom, thanks to her crazy support at that time, was no way. I'm an athlete and I'm not giving up. I'm only 16, 17 years old. And luckily, by holding that trust, by being delusional to what the doctors and everyone said, guess what? I found a rehab specialist who helped me change my mindset, who helped me change my beliefs and my trust around my back, who helped me rebuild it step by step. And now, after that, I ended up deadlifting 500 pounds. When before I was in rehab and I could only deadlift maximum 70 pounds. My back was worse than a 70-year-old man's. And I was only 16, 17. So, moving on. Level 3, a bonus before we move on, is taming the animal. So an easy way to tame that ego, the sense of self, to calm it down so it's not screaming so loud, is to tame the animal within. This is your nervous system. So that way you can handle these changes happening. So the proper ways to do it is proper breath work. Breathing in through your nose, not your mouth, not being a chest breather, being a stomach breather. Your senses, your overall physical senses, staying grounded. What can I see, touch, smell, feel, hear, like all those pieces. Positive self-talk. Nature, getting outside, getting connected in nature, getting your bare feet on the ground. Proper sleep at night, extremely powerful. And then a good intake, and this is consumption of anything, food, drugs, all those things, the media, social media, toxic people, all this stuff, a good intake. And then lastly is exercise. It will help calm and tame the animal brain. All right, level 4. Level 4. Raising your frequency and your vibration. Okay, this is the last step. So, the start, you get into the state, right? You hold the new state. You start on this journey. Now you take action. You don't know the full path, but you know the next one thing that you can do. Don't worry, because the next one thing you can do will lead you to the next one thing that you can do, which leads you to the next one thing that you can do. Your job is not to figure out the entire how or why. When you're in the unknown, when you're completely lost in the void, that's the biggest green sign, because that means that you're paving your own unique path. You're on your path. Okay? And that is, again, the biggest green flag possible if you want to get what it is that you personally want. Now, mind you, yes, people, successful people who you want to be like, leave breadcrumbs, and it's important to follow those and pick up that information. Okay, so you start, you hold the state, and then after you're in the right state, now you're taking action. That is called you're taking aligned action. Right? You're thinking, feeling as the person you want to be. You're believing yourself as who they are in the now. Now you're taking action as them. As you take action, things are going to pop up like resistance. Resistance is always an opportunity to grow. It is there for you, the yin and the yang, the up and the down, as above, so below. The resistance is there for you. Because if you don't know what you don't want, you'll never know what you do want. So you ask for change, right? I ask God for strength, and then challenges come up. I have to lift weights to get stronger. I have to carry this boulder up the mountain so I can get stronger, so I can get what it is that I actually want. I can lift the trophy when I get to the top of the mountain. So this resistance is there as an opportunity to grow. And typically it is a fear that we have held on to. It is a limiting belief that we're still holding on to that needs to go. For example, if you want to make a bunch of money in your life, but you have a belief that money is evil, you're going to hit the opportunity to face that limiting belief where maybe you'll self-sabotage every single time that you make a bunch of money. So that's a challenge. So now you can step outside yourself and review. Well, what would I have to believe to be true about money? My relationship with money sucks right now. So how do I fix it? Okay, change the relationship around it. Once we learn the lesson, oh, money's not evil. It's just an amplifier of who I already am, right? And then once we change those beliefs and our ideas around it, then the lesson's learned. It does not need to be repeated. So instead of going in a constant cycle, we can continue our growth path up into the next lesson, okay? Limiting belief, fear, whatever it may be that we get to go through to learn, to let go of, so we can step to get to where we want to go. And that's the higher mind. If you haven't seen that video, I recommend you watch my training on building a relationship with your higher mind versus your animal mind. But, or maybe it's just letting go of something, right? Letting go of an anchor, toxic people, letting go of things so you can keep growing to the next level to get what it is that you want. You always get what you want, but it's never how it seems. And the ego, the animal brain, is always going to try to predict. It's always going to try to control. It's always going to try to assume. It's always going to try to put meaning to situations. You need to quiet out that noise. You need to trust that it's all happening for you and to do your part, which is act and control the state. And as you do this, you will rise, you will ascend, you will grow, and you will literally be unrecognizable by the end of the year. I can promise you that. So, last little touch points here for today before we end off is stay in alignment with your state. Do not let the outer world change your state, your mind, or your beliefs. Observe and don't react. Challenges are gifts, and let go of how and when and just do your part. Now, if you like this training, make sure you subscribe for more growth. I appreciate you so much for staying and watching. This is my passion. This is my love. So I appreciate you being here, and let's keep growing. Let's keep changing, and let's win another year.